The campaign of 2012, so far mostly the Republican campaign, has been a perfect storm to evaluate the very acrimonious and divisive division between two great philosophers, Aristotle and Plato. They never made up, as a matter of fact. The last 5 years of their lives, they did not talk. Plato, the teacher and mentor, Aristotle, the student. Dear friends, split right apart by rhetoric, what we're going to talk about. Big battle. Is rhetoric a good thing or a bad thing? Is it pernicious or should it be exalted? That's what the battle was about. The 2012 primary, who won? A lot of rhetoric going on in the last 6 months. Who won between those two great philosophers? Plato had less than no use for rhetoric. Less than no. He said it had no intellectual rigor. It was fluff. It was like a cookbook. Worse than that, he said, what do you do about the bad man who's a good speaker? He's going to distort, or at least have a temptation to distort, to overstate, to inflame. What do we do about that? And what do we do about the bad audience? Very embittered by the mob turning on his mentor Socrates, the hemlock. He took a dark turn late in life, and he decided democracy would never work, the people weren't good enough, and that led him to distrust democracy in general and rhetoric in particular. He said that mob is going to be leadable, they're going to be chameleons, they're going to flip all over the place on you. Many are not going to be educated, and those that are likely, some of them, to be intellectually lazy. You could have some mobs break out for causes. Bad man, bad audience. It's too dangerous. That's the Plato view. Aristotle said no, said wait a minute. The ability to speak well is important in every area of life, from the family, to the job, to the courtroom, to the square in Athens where we make political decisions based on what folks are saying and who does the best job. It's important, it's very important to be effective at it. It is an academic discipline, so he wrote his book, The Rhetoric, that tried to give real academic substance to rhetoric. It needs to be written about, he said, taught and learned. And calm down, he said. There will be some bad men, but in the long pull, over time, the good rhetoric, the fair, the balanced, will tend to triumph. Be patient. And I'm going to err on the Aristotle side, no doubt about that. And one reason, and I need to quote this to you because you won't believe, Aristotle wrote, bless his heart, the bald man should not be considered mutilated. Yeah! I like the cut of that guy's jib. All right, that's the battle. What's it got to do with 2012? Well, everything, it seems to me. It was hard for me, at least, to listen to the last 6 months without thinking about Aristotle and Plato. Maybe I'm a sick puppy, but it's what I thought about the whole time. Absolutely unprecedented what's gone on the last 6 months. And it did start before the first primary election. Number of candidates, 9. Reasonably serious at some point. The crowd was fickle, weren't they? One person would be up, then down, then up, then down, all over the place. That's never happened before. Every one of them was up at one point. Every one of them was down except Governor Romney. Fickle audience. The money spent dwarfed the amount ever spent on a primary, all combined. One primary, more than has ever been spent in the total history of the country. Volume of negative ads and speeches, negative attacks, right? Florida, 95% of what was broadcast in Florida, negative. That's never happened before. But here's the big point. Here's the most remarkable, is the chorus of condemnation from every quarter about the rhetoric of what we have listened to. Of course, the Democrats in the far left are saying this is all puff, or wrong, or dangerous, or something. The non-campaigning party always says so. That's no surprise. Here's the surprise. The most intense disaffection, dissatisfaction, criticism did not come from the right, or from the left, it came from the right. That's never happened before. I just picked just a few. Every one of those leaders of conservative or Republican thought has been extremely angry about the campaign that they have just heard, every one of them. And if I've left out any big leaders or major writers or whatnot, let's go to the next page, because no punches were pulled in attacking the rhetoric that we have just heard from the right. Barbara Bush just last weekend had just had it and said that's the worst campaign I've ever seen in my life. John McCain says the whole thing's been a Greek tragedy. George Will, and it must have hurt him to write this, said the campaign demonstrates that neither leading candidate, at that time there were two when he wrote that, is even qualified to be president. We should give up and just fight for the Senate. Must have hurt Will to write that. That means, okay, Obama can have another term. Kraudheimer, the whole thing's been a circus show. That's what he wrote. Joe Scarborough, after this campaign, he said 4 days ago, no Republican or conservative leader thinks Governor Romney has any chance to win. Man, the campaigning sides, leaders, leading lights, writers, have never turned on the entirety of the campaign put on by its party. It's been virtually unanimous. Why? What in the heck happened? Why did it so backfire? I think the way to analyze that is the way most of us in this field analyze almost everything, and that's to go back to the gold standard of Aristotle and the way Aristotle analyzed effective or ineffective rhetoric. You've probably all heard of the trilogy of Aristotle, and I'll describe it briefly. I call it the trilogy plus one because I added one of my own. I get to do that because we share baldness together. He's my guy. Ethos, the ability to connect with an audience. I am not going to lie to you. Trust me, I will not misstate. And in a perfect world, in fact, I hope you even like me. Very underestimated in the force of rhetoric is doggone it, trust me, but also like me. That's ethos. Number one, and it is number one. It was put number one deliberately. Pathos, the ability to engage the emotions. Yeah, but it has to be really genuinely felt emotion, sparingly used. Because if it is perceived that the pathos appeal is overstated, if it's done too often, if audiences get the impression, I used to like this advocate, now I think that advocate's a cheap shot artist. I don't believe the advocate feels that. If an audience feels that way, there goes ethos. Now, I'm not sure I like this person. The second problem with overdoing pathos is if an audience comes to think that your emotions, your heart is trumping your mind, your judgment, your common sense. There too goes ethos. That's Howard Dean after he lost the Iowa primary 4 years ago. We're going to take back Kansas and South Dakota and New Hampshire, and we're going to take back, and then we're going to come to Washington and take back Washington. Yeah! Remember that one? They're going to campaign. That's dead the next morning. A pathos misuse killed the campaign. Logos. We underestimate how much we are all essentially wired to be linear thinkers. From the cab driver to the PhD. People get and understand clear, simple logic. They get contradictions. They get flip-flops. They understand that if A is true and B is true, C must be true. They think syllogistically. Back to Aristotle's famous syllogism. It's important to win the logos battle. Finally, delivery. Aristotle had an entire academy called Aristotle's Academy, which was devoted to effective delivery. The ability to engage an audience in the first place, to get them to listen, and then to be engaging. And he would take people for 6 months at a time and try to teach them how to wean themselves from notes, for the most part, how to be natural in gestures, in movement, in eye contact, and how to employ a variety of ways we get people to listen to us. Pace, cadence, volume, to use them all. That's what they taught, all day, every day, for 6 months at Aristotle's Academy. For those that poo-poo delivery, no, delivery is almost as important as the substantive rules of ethos, pathos, logos. We're ready to go now to the candidates and what happened. It now is pretty clear that that is the winning candidate, but he's got another election to win. Let's start here.
This feels good, being back in Michigan. You know, the trees are the right height, the streets are just right. I like the fact that most of the cars I see are Detroit-made automobiles. I drive a Mustang and a Chevy pickup truck. Ann drives a couple of Cadillacs, actually.
That's lesson 1, chapter 1. Chapter 2.
I'm not concerned about the very poor. We have a safety net there. If it needs a repair, I'll fix it. I'm not.
Chapter 3.
I like being able to fire people who provide services to me. If someone doesn't give me the good service I need, I want to say, that I'm going to go get somebody else to provide that service.
All right, if you have that much money and everybody's talking about it, right? You got to worry about the connecting with us, everybody in this room, and others. Don't you? Got to, because of Aristotle's rule of ethos. You absolutely have to do it. And he's doing this stuff. Well, we are all saying he's just doing a few little gaffes here and there. But just 9 days ago, Fox News has him out to give him a chance to deal with that, to explain it. Megyn Kelly does this, and listen carefully to the substance of his answer to, is he gaffing?
Point to things like, you've been making some gaffes, Governor. You were talking about, people ask you about football, you talk about how you know the NFL owner. They ask you about NASCAR, you talk about how you know some racing owners. You talk about Ann's 2 Cadillacs, and people say, he can't relate, he's so rich, he can't relate to the rest of us. Why do you keep doing that?
Megan, guess what? I've made a lot of money. I've been very successful. I'm not going to apologize.
That's serious stuff. His point is right now, and I hope I really do hope it will be fixed and that handlers can deal with it or something. His answer is, those aren't gaffes. I'm going to keep doing it and get out of my face, Megyn Kelly of Fox News, after he's done all those things that everybody's been talking about. And I, in my classes, ethos, 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 connect. You've got to start connecting. So on the ethos side, he hadn't done very well in terms of connecting, right? That's one problem we know he has had, and it's not fixed. You cannot do better than C- on that part, can you? He's got a second problem. Come out all the time in the campaigns from the Republicans, but it will come out from now on also, and that is shifting positions. You know it's out there. That doesn't mean it's fatal. It's just out there. Shifting positions on choice, shifting positions on race to the top, on the mandate, on guns, all over the place. And so the issue is at least teed up. Is there any there, right? It's happened to other people before, but it's out there. So his top lieutenant, who's been with him the longest of all, the #1 guy, 2 weeks ago and one day, tells the press this. Remember, he's got this problem of flip-flopper.
Is there a concern that the pressure from Santorum and Gingrich might force the governor to tack so far to the right it would hurt him with moderate voters in the general election?
Well, I think you hit a reset button for the fall campaign. Everything changes. It's almost like an Etch-a-Sketch. You can kind of shake it up and we start all over again.
Can you do any worse to keep digging deeper You tell Megan I'm going to keep doing it, get out of my face, and on flip-flopping, the worries from the Tea Party that he's going to turn on him, the worries from kind of everybody, exactly who is the guy. You can't do worse than Etch-a-Sketch, can you? I mean, to me, in my line of work, it's like at closing argument, opposing trial lawyer saying, ladies and gentlemen, I promised you an opening statement that I would do all the following things. Pause. Actually, it's now closing argument. I need a mulligan now. Would that be okay with you? I'm going to change the case completely. Well, it's just as bad or worse. All right, that's delivery. You probably seen this.
Will you follow your father's example? Maybe.
I don't know how many years I'll release. I'll take a look at what our documents are.
Particularly when he's under stress, he so often does that doggone silly giggle. And that's not the giggle about, are you going to release your tax returns or not? It's a very serious question at the time. He goes out and makes a speech in Michigan near his hometown and says, here's the yearbook, and I bet some of my former girlfriends are here, but Ann isn't here. Giggle, 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 giggle. And the singing, it's not great, whatever you say. And there's another problem on delivery. He also does this from time to time.
And shrink the size of government. I'm the only person in this race.
There's a misconception about you. The question is a misconception.
You get to ask the questions you want. I get to give the answers I want.
You can't do worse. You cannot do worse. People instinctively know when folks are not answering questions. And maybe they're taught by handlers, go make your own speech. You don't have to, but nobody ever has come right out and said, buddy, you get to ask questions. That's it for you. I get to do anything I want. Nobody's ever said it directly, although some have been taught, and I think mistaught, because I think we instinctively perceive when folks are not answering questions, and that it's desperately bad advocacy. Therefore, on delivery, so far, all this can be fixed a little bit, but the stuff's out there, awkward, stiff, occasionally short-fused. We go to the next candidate, who apparently dropped out yesterday.
So what did you say that people of faith have no role in the public square? You bet that makes you throw up. What kind of country do we live in that says only people of non-faith can come in the public square and make their case? That makes me throw up.
He's talking about John Kennedy's speech when he went down to Houston and talked to the Catholic hierarchy and said the Pope is not going to run this country, and won the presidency barely by saying, I am a Catholic, but I'll run the country for the good of the people, and I will not take orders from the Pope. And that enabled John Kennedy, still kind of a hero, to win as a Catholic, and made it possible for Santorum to have a good chance. And he's totally misconstruing the message that, to heck with faith altogether. John Kennedy went to church 3 times a week. He didn't say that. Bad, 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 bad. And now he takes out after Obama's State of the Union address, which again he mischaracterizes badly.
President Obama once said he wants everybody in America to go to college. What a snob. You're good, decent men and women who go out and work hard every day and put their skills to test that aren't taught by some liberal college professor and try to indoctrinate them. Well, I understand why he wants you to go to college. He wants to remake you in his image. I want to create jobs so people can remake their children into their image, not his.
Whole lot of questions about that, and a lot of people picked on it. The president had not said he wants everybody to go get a college degree or go to law school or anything else. He said we're learning from the job market that having some education beyond high school, be it technical, be it junior college, be it college, is a good thing. And he advocated that. Then he turns it into wants everybody to go to college And goes on to say, and by golly, college is kind of a bad place. You get poisoned there. You get indoctrinated. The problem is he has 3 degrees from college. There's only 2 of his children are old enough to go to college, that poisonous place, and they both did. And people picked it up. And those eyes are so fiery. And also notice, I'm going to come back to the crowd, just notice that cheering, yelling crowd in support of the President of the United States as a snob for aspirationally hoping more people can go to college. It didn't help him. Those 2 things were done right before the Ohio and Michigan primary votes, where he barely lost. And the commentators are pointing out, and I think they're right, those 2 angry, unfair, overstated answers, snob, throw up, cost him. I put to you, he would still be in the race if he won either of those. Really in the race if he won them both. And he barely lost having just done that. That's bad advocacy. Why do you go here, for heaven's sakes?
One of the things I will talk about that the president has talked about before is I think the dangers of contraception in this country. Homosexual liberty idea. Many Christian faiths have said, well, that's okay. You know, contraception's okay. It's not okay. Because it's a license to do things in the sexual realm that is counter to how things are supposed to be.
One poll shows that 98% of even Catholic families practice contraception. That would be true of the whole country for sure. Why go there? It's not okay in his religion, I guess. I guess that's what he means. It just so reeks of my God is the God, and the rest of you are wrong. You're not going to become President of the United States taking a position like that, even if he won the primary. There's no way that position is going to survive, and we're beginning to see it play out now on the national screen. Pathos, there's the problem with him. The angry look. The I know what's right for everybody. The overstating, the my God is the God. It's way too strong. He even finally admitted that his wife told him he had to tone this stuff down, that he was scaring people. Well, he was, but there's no way that's higher than what's an F on pathos? There's no way to elevate it. Delivery, you probably saw this one just a couple days ago.
Any other Republican in the country. He is the worst Republican in the country to put up against Barack Obama.
After the speech, New York Times reporter Jess Melody asked Santorum about those comments. Santorum quickly became angry over the line of questioning.
You said that Romney is the worst Republican in the country. Is that true?
What speech did you listen to?
Right here. He said he's the worst Republican.
I said he was the worst Republican to run on the issue of Obamacare, and that's what I was talking about. I have said uniquely, for every speech I give, I say he's uniquely disqualified to run against Barack Obama on the issue of health care. Would you guys quit distorting what I'm saying?
You think he's the worst Republican to run
Against Barack Obama on the issue of health care because he fashioned the blueprint. I've been saying it in every speech. Quit distorting our words. If I see it, it's bull. Come on, man. What are you doing?
Again, you see those fiery eyes that are hinting at pathos out of control. And he keeps going back to this, I know what's best for everybody. Why he ever went this far? He needs the religious vote. He needs the Christian vote, not just a pocket of it. He needs a lot of it. Look, that's his sentence. Publicly. Mainline Protestantism, that's a lot of us in this room, is in shambles, gone from the world of Christianity. Why go there? It sounds so sanctimonious. So only I know religion, and my religion is the religion. He's never going to become president taking positions that strong. So I say the problem on delivery, he's always almost angry. He sounds sanctimonious all the time. He's at least a D because he's an articulate guy, and I'm sure he's a smart guy. But that's kind of delivery. Anger and sanctimonious with eyes bright, wide open. Very bad stuff for persuading a mass of people. Here's another favorite of all of ours, I'm sure. Here's point one. Phase 1, Chapter 1.
Is that if you don't like what a court has done, that Congress should subpoena the judge and bring him before Congress and hold a congressional hearing. Some people say that's unconstitutional, but I'll let that go for a minute. I just want to ask you from a practical standpoint, how would you enforce that? Would you send the Capitol Police down to arrest him if you had to?
Or you'd instruct the Justice Department to send the U.S. Marshal.
He also said the 9% approval, Congress, they are at 9% approval, should be able to fire judges and to reverse decisions. Why in the world go there? Because he said so. How about this one? Come on, this is...
By the end of my second term, we will have the first permanent base on the moon, and it will be American.
First of all, we have just cut radically and had to money spent on space. Second, nobody, and we've talked to a teacher of ours in the world of astronomy, says there's any way we can build anything on the moon. It would cost more money than there is, and we don't have the capacity to develop a colony sustaining over time on the moon. Completely out of left field. Pathos and Logos' problems of taking these positions that he couldn't possibly defend or even want to defend, but they come out. Delivery? This is an important one, I think.
Mr. Speaker, I want to start with that this evening. As you know, your ex-wife gave an interview to ABC News and another interview with the Washington Post, and this story has now gone viral on the internet. In it, she says that you came to her in 1999, at a time when you were having an affair. She says you asked her, sir, to enter into an open marriage. Would you like to take some time to respond to that?
No, but I will. Destructive, vicious, negative nature of much of the news media makes it harder to govern this country, harder to attract decent people to run for public office, and I am appalled that you would begin a presidential debate on a topic like that.
We cut that off a little too early because you then have the mob reacting, and the mob is furious and screaming and on their feet and looking at each other. And it reminds of when the crowd got all fired up when Governor Perry said he'd been able to execute over 100 people in his state, and the crowd went wild. Great. When they talked about the brave gay soldier who had just come back from Iraq, and the crowd booed. You remember the debates? It was scary to watch the reaction. Plato must have been saying that's exactly what I was worried about. At almost every debate, there really was something that felt like mob psychology, and nobody could stoke it better than Newt Gingrich, the Speaker. That's one of my problems, is the whipping up the crowds. Health care, you remember when Ron Paul, said he didn't think we should pay for health care. If people don't have insurance, we shouldn't have to pay for emergency room treatment. And the commentator said, what are you talking about? Just let people die? And there was this giant chorus from the crowd, yeah. Remember that? It happened. If those things don't send chills up your spines and make Plato turn over in his grave, it'd be surprising. Arrogance is his problem. This is the most fun of all, okay? No, it gets even more fun on the next one. This is awful good.
It balances the budget in 2020. It does the things to the regulatory climate that has to happen. And I will tell you, it's 3 agencies of government when I get there that are gone. Commerce, education, and the, what's the third one there? Let's see. Oh, 5, okay. So, commerce, education, and EPA? EPA, there you go. No, seriously? Is EPA the one you were talking about? Or? No, sir. No, sir. We were talking about the agencies of government. EPA needs to be rebuilt. There's no doubt about that. But you can't name the third one? The third agency of government, yeah. I would do away with the education commerce, and let's see, I can't. The third one I can't. Sorry.
Well, and that's a twofer. He not only forgot the third one the first time, he forgot the second and third one the second time, but then somebody tries to give him a lifeline. EPA. Yeah, EPA, I'm safe. But then the commentator, do you really mean? Oh no, I actually didn't. It got me past this problem area I was having. He didn't mean it at all. Okay, this is better. Even better.
I think Americans just don't know sometimes which Mitt Romney they're dealing with. Is it the Mitt Romney that was on the side of against the Second Amendment before he was for the Second Amendment? Was before he was before these social programs from the standpoint of he was for standing up for Roe versus Wade, before he was against Roe versus Wade, he was for race to the top. He's for Obamacare, and now he's against it. I mean, we'll wait until tomorrow and see which Mitt Romney we're really talking to tonight.
Governor Romney? I'll use the same term again. Nice try.
That's another twofer. It could have been a power moment for him. He was for Roe against Wade, then he was against it. He was for guns, now he's against it. He actually came up with the mandate, now he's against it. He could have had a nice, clean for, against that would have been powerful. And instead, that's what came out. That's inexcusable advocacy. But it gets, yes, it gets worse. All right, this takes the absolute prize. Draw an eye and listen to what is about to happen.
Gold is good. If you've got any in the backyard, because if they print any more money over there in Washington, the gold's going to be good. Mine's cut, balance, and growth. Get that. Yeah. It's pretty simple, actually. Or you can stay in the old system that's out there. And then, Senator, the ones that want to stay in the old system, pay the lawyers, pay the accountants, all that money's gone. Or that. 20% flat tax, put it on there, take your deductions off, send it in. Even Tim Geithner can get his taxes in on time with this, I'm telling you. That little plan that I just shared with you doesn't force the Granite State to expand your tax footprint. You know what I mean?
No. I cut that off before I had to because I couldn't stand it anymore. But delivery, okay, of course, confused, befuddled. So there went that campaign. Well, this is also tied for the lead. We're getting to some stuff that you can't rank them. This one's terrific.
We know there was slavery that was still tolerated when the nation began. We know that was an evil, and it was a scourge and a blot and a stain upon our history. But we also know that the very founders that wrote those documents worked tirelessly until slavery was no more in the United States. And I think it is high time.
It's 1789, by the way.
Contribution of our forebears who worked tirelessly. Men like John Quincy Adams, who would not rest until slavery was extinguished in the country.
The second cut is she finally came up with a name. That was the next day. When she comes up with the name John Quincy Adams, and she stuck to her guns. Those founders got rid of slavery. Did she miss the dust-up in 1860? I guarantee, I just tried it with my 9-year-old grandson. They darn well wouldn't miss the dust-up in 1860. Do they know about Abe Lincoln? Had she never been to Monticello? Had she never been to Mount Vernon? And hadn't seen the slaves' quarters? Had she not actually read the Constitution? You remember that 3/5 part? And John Quincy Adams was not a founding father, he was a founding baby, and he did not, by golly, he did not extinguish slavery from the face of this earth. Otherwise, that's good stuff, right? And she's there in New Hampshire, she says, she's talking about the first battle of the Revolution and says, those brave people here in New Hampshire, Bunker Hill, remember it was right here. No, it wasn't. Wasn't in Bunker Hill. You got to give her absolute logos calamity. Delivery, theatrical, and to my taste, a little too theatrical, a little too smug and sure of herself, and that over time, for many of us, her tirelessly turned to tiresome, and it was hard to take in big doses. I have to keep eating my words on which is the best. Maybe this is.
President Obama on video. Okay, Libya. President Obama supported the uprising, correct? President Obama called for the removal of Gaddafi. Just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing before I say, yes, I agreed, I know I didn't agree. I do not agree with the way he handled it for the following reason. No, that's a different one. I gotta go back and see. Got all this stuff twirling around in my head.
Look, for months we had been through, what do we do in Libya? We got these choices. It's scary either way. The thing had just worked out. We didn't lose a drop of American blood. It worked out. It had been in the newspapers nonstop. Oh, that's another one, the guy says. Joe, this is good. Okay. His first big ad.
Mark Block here. Since January, I've had the privilege of being the Chief of Staff to Herman Cain and the Chief Operating Officer of the Friends of Herman Cain. Tomorrow, it's one day closer to the White House. I really believe that Herman Cain will put United back in the United States of America. And if I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be here. We've run a campaign like nobody's ever seen. But then, America's never seen a candidate like Herman Cain. We need you to get involved because together we can do this. We can take this country back.
Well, where do you start? Why are you extolling smoking in this country? And that absolutely salacious smile that started like that happened before all of the sex stuff came out, but didn't you kind of see it coming? If that hidden baby, what are you doing after the show? Look, that smile. I don't know what would be. Logos, ethos, oh my gosh. The F's, of course. Delivery, this is fun at least. That's from a 10-hour tape, which put together every time he mentioned 999 590 times. His campaign was about 999, which he had a lot of trouble explaining, by the way, but that was the delivery that, boy, did that get broken record boring. We come to the last three, and I'll just say a couple words. Ron Paul, I think, just perceived as a little out of touch. A little old, always had some support, but never enough. A lot of people have tried to figure out why Ambassador Huntsman never got more than 3 or 4% in most places. I don't know. perceived, I guess, the best I can do, perceived to be colorless, perceived to be maybe too academic for the people voting, maybe perceived to be too moderate for who was voting in the, I don't know, they never caught fire. And finally, the all-time winner of the cake. He's got to be the rhetorical trifecta. Ethos, pathos, logos, Donald Trump. He's the winner. He wins the ultimate prize. Well, that's it. Those were the candidates. And the primary is now over, as of yesterday. 2 concluding thoughts. Do the primary shortcomings doom the prevailing candidate? Of course not. They don't. He's got time to do some improving on the ethos side, if he will stop apparently fighting his handlers on this idea that these gaffes aren't gaffes. So you've got to get over that. External events could trump the rhetoric, the importance of rhetoric, yeah. But nothing has proved a more accurate predictor of who will win the presidency ever since FDR than good rhetoric on the one hand and bad rhetoric on the other dooming somebody. There is no matrix out there since FDR any better. Look at that list. All of those guys made it because they were good rhetorically, and most of them were underdogs. Reagan, the Republican establishment, wasn't sure of. They called him a grade B actor. Son of a gun could talk, and he won twice. Eisenhower, Mr. Ethos, I like Ike. And he won because people thought he was humble and modest, and had also won Dunkirk for us. Kennedy had not had a good career in the Senate at all. They thought he was a lightweight from a relatively small electoral state, and he was a Catholic. Son of a gun could talk, and he won, barely. Clinton gave a bad speech at the convention the 4 years before he ran. The keynote speech went 120 minutes, was a disaster. But then he started coming on, again from a small state. He started coming on as a terrific rhetorician. Obama only been in the Senate 1 term. People said the son of a gun, and we all know it, the son of a gun at his best can really talk. Even Truman, not a great orator, but it was give him hell Harry. People liked the guy. Ethos, they really liked him, and he won. Been important to all of them. On the other side, Dewey lost to Truman. Well-heeled guy in his pinstripe suit gave the same speech 32 times in a row and went down because of rhetoric. Dukakis, stiff, couldn't defend his support of eliminating the death penalty in all cases, particularly that great question about what if your wife is raped and murdered? Do you still oppose the death penalty? And he talked about drugs coming in from South America. Just terrible advocate. Dean screaming, take back Washington. Kerry and Gore both stiffer, apparently, in their public performances than they are in private. I don't happen to know either one of them, but they were not great advocates rhetorically. And McCain mostly had to read his speeches. Boy, that's a lot that's been explained by good, bad, or ugly rhetoric. Rhetoric matters in who we end up choosing. Second and last, whose views, back to where I started, Plato or Aristotle, whose views were borne out? I think the answer is both. Plato would say, I believe, I told you so. It's exactly what I was afraid of. I was afraid of that mob. I was afraid of the fast and loose. I was afraid of overstating. I was afraid of the possible inept man or cheating or something, and the mob that could be led and scream at debates. Aristotle would say, not so fast. What this teaches is that effective advocacy is essential, but it must be thought about, read, taught, learned. That's the lesson here. That great advocacy will be honored, and bad advocacy will be sanctioned. So let's take it more seriously. It is crucial to a successful government, because it's the way we're going to keep making our decisions. So who's going to win? That's over my pay grade. I do not know. Other professors around here make those predictions. But I do argue that the results will come down in large part to who was the better advocate, who did the good job, who did not do such a good job. And for all those that say, who cares about rhetoric, the next 5 months you're going to be seeing a lot of it. And my prediction, it just goes this far. Rhetoric will be a major factor in who prevails.